I think throughout my life, I've had bouts, different times where I've gone through periods of depression and anxiety. I've been through therapy a few times, and I've found the benefits far outweigh. I don't feel a need to be ashamed of it anymore.
Lube your chain and pump up those tires. It's time for Aging on Dirt, where we defy expectations one pedal stroke at a time. We age, but we don't have to get old, and we all want to experience the joy of mountain biking as long as possible. Are you starting to ride at an unreasonable age, getting back into it after a long layoff, or just wanting to extend how long you'll be riding? Then you're in the right place. And now, your host, Joel Zeeve.
Today's guest is Mark McClellan. He's a local rider, so part of my series of episodes of locals called Tales from the Trails. Unless you know Mark personally, you likely have never heard of him. And this is really, per his own admission, he's not a very outgoing guy. So you'll be just as surprised as I was to learn that he, as a listener, reached out to me offering to be on the show as he thought he could contribute and make an impact on many of us. I had never met Mark either prior to this, so I was hesitant. Then he shared his story with me and what he thought we all could learn, and it became an easy decision for me to have him on. Unlike all of my guests so far, and the topics that focus mostly on the physical aspects of riding as we age, Mark's personal story, his struggles, and his successes so far, much more have to do with the mental health aspects of riding on dirt. I think we all get some degree of increased mental health from our riding and being outdoors. But what Mark shares during this interview takes things to an entirely different level. I don't want to spoil it for you, so just enjoy listening in on my discussion with Mark McClellan. Here you go. Well, Mark, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was quite a treat to get your message offering to be on. Let's start off like I do with everybody. Give me your name, your age, how long you've been riding mountain bikes, and where you live, and your favorite trail that's close to your house.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Mark McClellan. I am 50 years old. I have been riding mountain bikes for, I did a little bit when I was a lot younger, but took about a 25 year break.
Okay.
But I picked it back up again when I was 45, so roughly 5 years ago.
Oh, nice.
I live in North Salt Lake, and favorite place to ride close to home is Mueller Park.
Get that a lot from people in Davis County.
I think it's a well-used trail. There's a lot of traffic, but it just feels like you're in a different world up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, I've only been a couple times. So we haven't really talked. We haven't talked live, you and I, before today. And it sounds like you've had some significant mental health challenges especially over the last year or so. That mountain biking has really been a key to help you get over. So I guess first off, I find it really inspiring and really courageous that you're willing to share that and talk with me in this open forum. It's something that I would personally have a huge challenge with sharing with people. I guess right there, that tells me that you've had some groundbreaking improvements. So I guess if you don't mind, we can if you want to just start right off sharing what you were going through last year and kind of dive into why the biking has helped you with that.
I think throughout my life, I've had bouts, different times where I've gone through periods of depression and anxiety. I've been through therapy a few times, and I've found the benefits far outweigh. I don't feel a need to be ashamed of it anymore. It was a little embarrassing when I first went, back in my 20s, many years ago.
Okay.
But eventually I just was like, you know what, this is great. When I started meeting with a therapist, I thought it was great, and I wanted to kind of tell more people about it. And my wife would sometimes try to dial me back, like, you don't have to tell everyone about every little problem you're having. But yeah, I saw the value in it and how much it helped me. I'm usually pretty open about talking about it.
Okay.
I'm happy to do so today. And you referenced last year. It's probably last year, 18 months, maybe even 2 years. So just a lot going on in my life, especially since COVID. Job-wise, I work in technology.
Okay.
I am older for technology years. I am an older person.
Mm-hmm.
And was, enjoying the golden years. And then right around COVID, just things started to be a lot less stable for me. I've been through multiple layoffs. The first one happened with a company that I was really enjoying and had been thinking, I'm going to work here for the rest of my days.
Forever,
And,
sure.
life threw me that curve and said, no, you're not. And I've ended up in jobs that were not ideal and work situations. Back in December 2021, my wife was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And, that coincided right as she began her treatment. I actually experienced a job layoff. And just things were just piling up mentally. Luckily I found another job with the same insurance, but it was really rough there for a while. I will say today that her treatment was considered highly successful. She's in remission. We hope to keep it that way. She's doing really well.
Okay, great.
Despite the treatment, she went through radiation and chemotherapy and several surgeries, and it's been really rough. But yeah, she's doing a lot better. So, but there was a period of time there within the last, I would say, 18 months or so, where I was experiencing anxiety like I had never experienced, at levels that I had never felt before, and it was new to me. And
so, with the combination of the job changes and your wife's health,
yeah, so the anxiety was like I had never experienced it before, and I didn't know how to deal with it. At the time, I was seeing a therapist, but he went on paternity leave, and I kind of had to switch around. So there was a period in there where I didn't have anyone to talk to.
Sure.
And things kind of came to a head. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was having very dark thoughts. This world might be better off without me. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
It was really heavy. And about the same time, like I said, that I did not know how to deal with it. I was not able to talk it out. Spiritual means I didn't have any medication. Nothing was working for me. And I remember going out for a ride one day, and I do ride a Class 1 pedal assist e-bike.
Okay.
I told myself, I'm going to go for a ride, and I'm going to ride until my anxiety goes away, or my heart stops beating, or my battery dies.
Okay.
And I laugh at that. I kind of laugh at that now because it's just silly. But I went out and I was just riding up the steepest hills and, making myself suffer. I had turned my assist down and just grinding it out. It was a very angsty ride. And I at some point was like, I'm actually feeling a lot better, even though I'm, panting and kind of
Sweating it out.
made myself sweat a bit. I realized that, hey, I had found a little bit of a reprieve here from my anxiety.
Prior to this, was the biking getting you that kind of reprieve before, or you just didn't really push it that hard or ride with that kind of intent?
Yeah, it did provide some relief. It wasn't lasting.
Okay.
And even this one, I mean, it bought me a little bit more time. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping at the time. I remember I was able to go home and feel a lot better for the rest of the night and actually get some sleep.
Okay.
But
Good.
It didn't last. And I say that it didn't last because I needed professional help. And I eventually got the help that I needed, kind of in a intervention style way. I got some emergency help, met with some therapists that were there on an emergency basis because I did not have a regular assigned therapist at the time.
Right.
And they were able to get me some medication to kind of help me break the anxiety cycle and talk through some of the issues that I was having. And, it wasn't an overnight fix, but, they encouraged me. I told them about the bike ride and they were like, keep riding your bike, that's going to help you. But there was other things that I needed. So, it wasn't, I can't say, riding my bike cured me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a combination of a lot of other different things, professional help, some medication, temporarily. I'm not on medication now. Staying active has definitely been part of the game plan to help with my mental health.
Okay. You had mentioned that that it literally saved your life. You're thinking of just that particular ride when things were so dark, or are you thinking more of a kind of an ongoing part of the bigger picture, the solution once you connected with the therapist and the medication?
It's more of a combination. I mean, that was one situation, but when I got back on a bike at age 45, it was to ride with my son who had discovered NICA racing, the high school racing teams.
Okay. That's what got you back into it.
Yeah. And so I found a used hardtail on the local classifieds here. I bought a Salsa Timberjack. And it was just such a different bike than I had ridden in the past. It had 27.5 plus wheels on it. It's just the geometry and just these wide bars. And it was like, wow, these bikes are a lot better these days.
Go figure.
And, the intent was that I would be able to ride with my son. I was encouraged by the NICA coach to become a ride leader, and I could not keep up at all. And as much as I loved it, it wasn't getting me out there regularly. But I had both the NICA coach and my doctor separately tell me, you ought to try an e-bike. You might benefit from that. And once I did that, it was a game changer.
How long have you been on the e-bike then?
I think 4 of those 5 years. So it was about a year after I got back on the bike that I tried one out, and I kind of resisted it. It's like, no, people think those are cheating and I don't want to cheat. I really should be doing this for, the old fashioned way.
Sure.
But part of that
trying
was
to keep up with the teenagers the old fashioned way.
Exactly. Which, I mean, I still probably couldn't, I know I wouldn't be able to do that. But, at some point I've been overweight for a long time. I sought out some help from a weight loss clinic. And this was about the time when I started actually e-biking, and I was able to lose 65 pounds over a period of time.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
It was,
how quick did that come off?
It was, I want to say like 6 to 8 months.
Okay. Nice.
So,
and that was, I'm assuming, like a combination of diet and were you doing more besides the e-bike and diet? Anything else made that happen?
Yeah, so there was some medication. You've probably heard of some of these injectables. I was on some of the earlier versions of those.
Okay.
And I remember at the time being worried, like, is this all the medication? And, causing me to lose the weight. And the doctor said, there's no way you'd lose that much weight if it wasn't a combination of, eating right and, exercising, which working at a computer, I do lead a pretty sedentary life if I don't make myself get up and go and do something else, which the e-bike, I know that kind of sounds cliche, but I do ride a lot more often and a lot further. And it's a lot more enjoyable.
Sure.
I remember some of those early rides. I would go for, 3 miles and think, wow, I've gone so far. 5 miles was like, that's a big day for me.
Right.
And I look back at that now and it's like, my average rides are more like 12 to 15 miles. I can go 20 miles. And for a guy my size, that's a miracle to me. The other thing too, I mean, I have other than weight issues, I have bad knees. I have feet problems. I basically have 2 toes on each foot that don't work. I saw a podiatrist and he says, you're developing hammer toe, which is kind of gnarly if you look it up on the internet. Mine don't look like that, but I tell you that because there's been so many different activities that I had tried to get some kind of exercise in my life. I grew up playing soccer and riding skateboards. And then that just, as I got older, was doing less and less of that.
Sure.
So at some point, I started trying to go and play pickup soccer, indoor soccer with people that I worked with. That's actually when I discovered that I had knee pain just running around on turf, being overweight. So, that didn't last. I heard your episode. I actually played racquetball for a while. I got in with a group, wake up at 5 a.m. and go play at the local rec center.
Sure. Get some good cardio in before, throw yourself up against the wall for an hour or so before work.
And, with the soccer and with the racquetball, I noticed that after I would play, usually the day after, I could hardly walk. My knees hurt just so bad. And it was pretty discouraging because I just kind of felt like I would discover something that I liked doing, but it just wasn't sustainable with the condition that my knees were in.
Sure.
So I was like, I need to do something to get in shape. And I discovered Olympic weightlifting. And I was doing that with a coach and I loved it. It was like, wow, I found my thing. This is amazing. It fits my body type. I look like an Olympic weightlifter. I'm not nearly as strong as they are, but it was just amazing. And then the knees just, again, I would go and lift and the next day I could hardly walk. And so it was just really discouraging to keep having these new activities that I would discover and love, but then just felt like my knees and my feet would not let me do them.
Right.
And so with the bike, especially with the e-bike, I don't have that anymore. Actually, as a combination of just riding the bike and losing that weight, my knees have felt better than they had in years.
So that's awesome.
When I say that King has saved my life, I was getting to a point where I felt like there's nothing physical that I can do. It hurts to walk when I exert myself. Mm-hmm. I guess this is life. I guess I'm just going to eventually end up, in a wheelchair or with a walker because my knees are just going to keep getting worse and worse. But the bike has given me like a new lease on life. It's like, this is something I can do.
Right. And you enjoy it.
Yeah. And it's fun. So
that's great. Well, and the nice thing about the e-bike is you can work or as hard or as little as you want, depending on the power mode that you set. I mean, typically, even when I go out thinking, okay, this is going to be an easy ride, I keep it easy, but then it ends up being a lot longer.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that it's really helped you with your self-confidence. Mountain bike riding has, and also that you didn't think you'd be at the level of coaching now with the NICA team. Kind of get into that a little bit and how that progressed.
I am actually a pretty shy person until you get to know me, and then I'll annoy you with questions and talk. But I'm not the most confident person in a lot of aspects in life. Something I talked about with my therapist a lot is imposter syndrome. Even with the job that I do, I have around 24 years of experience that I've been doing this, and sometimes I feel like, oh man, I'm not any good. I don't know what I'm doing. It's very real with me, imposter syndrome.
Sure.
And that definitely carried over to being new in mountain biking, and knowing that I stood out not in a great way. I was kind of goofy. I was a big, heavy guy on a bike. I didn't have all the nice kit that everyone else had. I'm out there in like, running shoes or whatever.
Didn't look like a typical mountain biker.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And especially when I first got the e-bike, I was going out just just anticipating getting yelled at, you cheater, hey cheater, get off our trails.
Right.
So I would actually go on rides and preemptively apologize to people that I just met. I'd come riding up on some hikers. Hey, sorry, I'm riding an e-bike. I know I'm cheating. And they're like, okay, great. I'm glad that you're out here.
Well,
and
good
I
for them.
found that people really did not care. I
Sure.
anticipated a lot more hate than I've gotten. I think maybe I've ever heard someone call me a cheater twice.
Okay. Yeah,
And one of those times,
it's much more often on social media when they don't have to look you in the face.
yeah, that definitely, that is absolutely true. It doesn't matter. I'm out there just like everyone else, trying to enjoy the trails, and
that's the most important thing.
And I have become a lot more of a confident person.
So how did you evolve from initially coaching with your son? I'm assuming everybody starts at level 1 to being a level 3 coach now. And can you briefly describe what those levels are? Because until recently, I had no clue. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't either.
I did start out as a level 1, which is the first, that's the most basic level of being a ride leader with NICA. NICA is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association.
Yeah, good point. I don't even know what it stands for. It's the High School Mountain Biking Association.
Yeah, it's the high school league. So when my son was in 7th grade, even though he wasn't in high school, the kids can start riding in 7th and 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I had my salsa hardtail non-e-bike. I did get the certification, and I did try to ride with the team. They put me as a backup sweeper with the slowest of the teams, and they lost me within, a half mile on the trail.
Okay.
So I just would tell them, don't worry about me. I'm a big boy. I know I'll find my way out of here. You don't need to worry about me. Well, there was another sweeper. I was a fake sweeper. It was.
So there was a sweeper that was behind you?
No, I was just kind of going along for the ride.
Okay.
With an actual sweeper that would sweep the group and make sure none of the kids fell behind. So that's, I went from that to when I got the e-bike, it's like, okay, now I can keep up a little bit. So after 2 years, I leveled up to level 2. And when you become level 2, that's when you can actually start leading rides. So level 1, they typically want you either as a sweeper or, somewhere mid-pack with the group. Level 2, so I did that for 2 years. And then this year...
So you're level 2 for 2 years. Okay. So
now this will be my son's 5th year, and I leveled up to level 3, which I don't want the responsibility, but level 3 is when you can actually become a head coach. And we have enough level 3s to where I operate more as a level 2 on a day-to-day basis. But with each level, there's a little bit more training. So, there's first aid training for level 2, and then it's a lot deeper first aid training for level 3. Having, level 3 is doing more of the ride plans. We have to have emergency plans for, knowing things like where the nearest medical facilities are closest to the trailhead where we're riding, having a plan in case something goes wrong.
And the leadership responsibility is also going up too. So instead of, you're not just kind of hanging out and following people, you're taking charge, and you're it sounds like you're doing the coaching for, the group that you're in charge of for that day. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Nice. So why, I think you mentioned that you thought that was really kind of at least initially kind of a stretch goal for you to get to the level 2 or level 3 coaching levels. Yeah.
When I first joined the team, or my son first joined the team rather, I was friends with the head coach, and he's like, you ought to become a ride leader. And it was kind of like, yeah, I guess that just really wouldn't happen. I'm not the best mountain biker even today. as far as technique goes.
Mhm.
And the fitness was a real issue as well. So, I mean, even when I became that level 1 that first year, it was kind of like, well, I'll be there if they absolutely are desperate for ride leaders. But, I don't know that anyone can count on me to reliably even sweep a group. So the e-bike actually made that a possibility to where I could reliably ride with the group.
Okay.
And as I did that and took on more responsibility, it helped me gain the confidence to get more involved. And I actually really like, on race days, we operate a feed zone where riders come through on their laps. Most of the high schoolers are riding 2 laps. Some are riding 3, and then varsity are riding 4 laps. So they come through with feed zone. I really like being in there and just handing off water bottles. It's kind of chaotic, and there's rules. They don't want you stepping out onto the course, or, you can't dump water on a rider, for instance. They have to actually take the bottle. So I like to be there on race day, as well as, greeting them at the finish line.
Okay.
Just, being there, grabbing their bike, handing them water and chocolate milk or Gatorade to help them. But yeah, I started out as just a spectator on race days and cheering for my own kid, and now I'm out there at the races and aiding and helping with the rest of the team and cheering on a lot more. So it's been kind of a fun journey.
I bet. Your son's a senior this year, then?
No, he'll be a junior. So
Okay.
this will be his 5th season.
Okay.
So
Have you thought ahead to what you're going to do after he graduates, as far as coaching and mountain biking?
it's definitely been a thought. We actually do have a coach I believe he's back for the 2nd year after his son has graduated, and he stayed involved with the team. And I kind of was thinking, I wonder if I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
I have thought, though, so one of the things I would like to do, I'm trying to find ways to advocate more at a community level for Class 1 e-bike usage. I would really like to advocate for more trail access and just make it, personally, I believe a Class 1 pedal assist e-bike should have the same access as any non-electric assist mountain bike. There's a lot of murky territory with the class system, and even the term e-bike is just so muddled, because you've got your pedal assist e-bike, you've got your electric moto e-bike. It's just a loaded term that really could use some refinement.
For sure.
And in addition to that, so I've thought, after the post NICA days, maybe that's what I do. I'm thinking of getting more involved at a local level. I am talking to our city council about possibly being involved with the what do they call it? The Trails and Recreation Committee.
Okay.
So that's another thought that I've had. And then I'd actually like to I would love to ride more with people my age. It's fun to ride with the high schoolers. Sometimes I do wish, I wish I could just enjoy this ride a little bit more, instead of trying to keep up with these kids and, get them to the correct heart rate zone. And I think I'm kind of looking forward to that next stage, the post NICA phase. And I have other ideas as well.
Okay.
Another thought I've had is, I lacked confidence. It was kind of daunting to go out and ride initially for me, and just feeling like, what am I doing out here? I don't really belong. I don't know what I'm doing, really. And I know there are other people out there feeling that same way. I've been just thinking to myself, trying to brainstorm, what are some ways that I could help people that might be in that state of mind, and say, you know what, I've been where you've been. Let's go ride together. I'll show you the ropes.
Great idea.
As far as, and kind of going back to the confidence thing too, I went from being that person that was, apologizing in advance to people for riding an e-bike to now, my goal is just to be the happy social trail guy. I say hi to people. I show a friendly face. I'm probably more kind than I need to be about yielding and trail etiquette. I just try to be the nicest guy out there. And that has actually led to so many social interactions where, people start asking me about the trails. I'll whip out my phone and pull up trail forks and say, okay, here's where you are. Let's take a look at this together. I'll help you get to where you need to be.
Okay.
I saved a rider from heading south on BST toward Wild Rose when she really wanted to go the opposite direction back toward Mueller Park. People thank me, and it's like, this is actually really helping me. I come away with feeling like I got something out of it. It's a positive experience. It restores a little bit of my faith in humanity.
Sure.
Just strangers can come and interact, and we're just out there loving the trail together.
Right.
And it's a feeling that I try to explain to people that don't mountain bike, and I just don't feel like it really translates well until they experience it.
Yeah, it is tough to explain, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the next step that I'm going to do, is try to find ways to be involved in a positive light or positive way.
Great. Cool. Well, you've got another 2 seasons to work on that plan.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, sweet. I appreciate you taking the time, and
Thank you.
hopefully we have a chance to meet on the trail, and other people have a chance to meet you and run into you. It sounds like you're going to be easy to spot and super friendly. So those are the ones that everybody loves to run into.
Yep. And I always carry a first aid kit too. So I've got Band-Aids and antibacterial ointment if you need it.
Great. That's good to know. Sweet. All right. Well, thanks, Mark.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's another lap around the bike park for Aging on Dirt. I hope you've learned something and or found this entertaining. Most importantly, go out and apply what you've learned so you can experience more joy on your bike. Remember, Joel wants your input. What topics and or guests do you want to hear? Reach out to him where you're listening to the podcast, on Facebook, or find his email/phone on his coaching website, jzmtb.com. Until next time, have fun and be safe out there.